holding me back. You feed my ego, together we go. Talking dirty, playing cheap. I know I'm in too deep. Running out of kryptonite to take you through the night.
Hey, Spirit of 420 here, because everything I do is so 4damn20, just like that dank ass new launch video from dank.tube. Yeah, that's just my boys playing around. We're getting ready to do a better one. We got some better ideas, but it is what it is, and we're having fun, and that's really all that fucking matters. Life is too short. Take it seriously. In fact, you got to have fun if you want to be happy. It's just that simple. Let's see. We got somebody out here already. Hey, Strange Bird. How are you doing? You like that intro? Tell me what you think of that. I thought that was pretty cool to do it like that. So, anywho, back to the regular grind. Already took a hit here off of this bad boy. Time to take another one. Nice to see all you ODs out there. That's original danksters. That's going to be a strain on dank.tube, you can imagine, for all the old danksters out there, which I am now one of, being that I'm 50. I qualify for that that age group, or that designation, I should say. Right? What's up, Wilson? How are you, man? I would like to think that you're feeling a little bit better since you're here with us tonight, man. Good to fucking see you, Wilson. I got my Wilson back. You know, it's funny. Wilson, you chose that GIF. I was going to choose it, but then I was like, no, I'm going to wait till Wilson's back. Then I will choose that GIF. So later on tonight, you can expect that GIF will be coming your way, buddy. Good to have you in the audience tonight, man. I'm going to start it off with a dab. I don't normally do that. Usually wait till the end, but fuck it. I'm feeling dabby. Was going to tell a story. I don't think I've told this story. So one of the stories that I was going to focus on tonight was the first time that I met my wife, because I think it's quite a humorous story. And if I've told it before, well, fuck it. I'm a stoner. I'm probably going to say it again. And for those of you who can only hear this, I have a dab tool in my mouth right now while I'm trying to do the show. So that's just the way it goes. I love that whistle. Look at there, Wilson. Someone else is happy to see you too. Strange Bird, I know you follow me on Twitter, so I don't know if you saw. Wilson had, it was either 4 or 5 epidurals in one day to help get through his situation. I think some of it, my guess, and Wilson, you can feel free to I love it, man. You know how many times, man, I've been doing that shit since I was like 13, bro, or 14. But I imagine it was 6. Holy shit. Look at that. And Joy, look at that. 6. Anywho, Wilson, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming, I know you said kind of. So my guess is that some of it was to help relieve the pain, but some of it, I'm assuming, is in hopes to fix it so the pain will ultimately go away. Not necessarily relieving the pain, but somehow do something to fix what you're dealing with. And feel free to knock it out and tell me, right? How many kids you got, Wilson? Tell us that here while you're watching, man. So you will dig this story, I tell you that, because it's a good story of everything happens for a reason, right? And I'm sure everybody who's at the show or here now knows how I am. I'm a true believer in everything happens exactly the way it's supposed to. We don't always like hearing that, particularly when we're in pain, whether that's emotional, physical, or mental, which I myself have suffered from all. I'm pretty sure that I know Wilson has suffered from all. Yep, there you go. I will pray that uh, the operation, or that the procedure, excuse me, it wasn't really an operation so much as a procedure. I will pray that it does even better than it's supposed to perform. Put it that way, Wilson. But it is glad to have you back, and I am glad to have you back, and we'll and I've said this to you before, and I know it's all a matter of time. So when you're ready, we'll do something and collaborate in some shape, way, or form, and get something going. Maybe you can send me some stuff, and I'll make some videos for you, put them up on DinkTube, and your name, of course. Whatever you want to do, buddy. I mean that. I just want you to feel better. That's my biggest concern. And I got some shit on my desk. I don't know if everybody's noticing me rubbing it, but noticing me rubbing it. That's what he said. Sorry, I had to throw that out there. Oh, I got a few here. Hold on. Let me catch up with Wilson. Nice. That is good to hear. 6 more. And so you have to get 6 more of these? Is that, I'm assuming they're going to give you some time. How soon before you have to get the others? That's insane. Dude. Oh, always, man. Always. And don't worry if anybody thinks that Wilson's stealing the show. He's not. He's a buddy of mine, and I've been waiting for him to come back. So I'll keep talking to him for a minute, because that's part of what the Spirit of 420 show is all about. Support, loving one another, caring for one another, and helping one another when they're down, because that's exactly what I was saying. Everything happens for a reason. Even when you are in pain, that pain is only I won't necessarily say that pain is always the catalyst to the happiness to come, but it is a catalyst to some happiness to come. Sometimes it is immediately following. Sometimes it takes days, weeks, months, years, decades to transpire. So just know that. And I have proof of that. Anybody ever wants to talk to me about that, hey, we can do it. That might be one of the stories that I tell next. That would be a good story to tell, right? Talk about, pick out some of the worst things that have ever happened and show how those things were the catalyst. I mean, I'll just give you one right off the bat that always strikes me. It was one of the absolute worst moments in my life when I got busted. It was the worst moment because I was flying high on this one, pedestal, if you will. By the way, my wife made me bring this one back because I still had some pot left in it. Funny enough, from the other night, because after I smoked it, I set it outside. This is Dildo. I can't imagine. I'm sure y'all can assume why Dildo got her name, right? I mean, it's just too easy, right? And it really is kind of it's a trippy bowl. It's very simple, but very trippy. Who is bothering me? Oh, that's just on. But I think that would be a good one. And so I'll just say real quick, I'll give you a quick example of a horrible event. Like I said, I was busted. I was stripped of everything. I lost pretty much all my money, all my possessions. I was down to one vehicle, which was a little 1981 Nissan pup truck that I called the Rat Patrol, because born in 72, I'm the year of the rat. So I was down to my Rat Patrol, and basically what the Rat Patrol could carry. And this is just a little Nissan. I mean, it had the extra cab, but we're not talking about a king cab. We're talking about 1981 little extra cab. So it couldn't hold a whole lot, but I had what I had. Oh, what was this? Strange bird, or did you name it, or your wife? Oh, that is truly. I'll have to think about that for a minute. What is that? Truly of 9 pound. What's in your trip? I like that. It's funny. Nice. I knew we had some shit in common, brother. Nonetheless, moving back on to it, I believe that was a mutual decision. To answer your question, Princess Buttercup, I'm almost positive that we both kind of looked at it and said it at the same time. One of those things. My wife and I share what we call wavelengths all the time, where we end up and we play jinx because of it. We jinx each other constantly. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that was one that we like came up at the same time. So anyway, back to my quick example that is no longer quick. Oh man, did y'all hear that? I mean, you might have even heard me hold that burp in. I couldn't. If I'd held that one in, it would have hurt. So I went away from the. I went away from the mic. Even though I lost everything, it forced me to make a few moves. So I'll just get to the example very quick. And by making those moves, I was living one place, right? I ended up moving from here to here. Let's just put it that way. And it was because of the second move, moving back in with my mother in Atlanta, that I ended up meeting the mother of my, what would become the mother of my first two boys. That would have never happened. Period. I would not have moved. I would not have met her. I wouldn't have. It just none of that would have happened that way, right? I'd been where I was for 5 years, and had I not gotten busted, I would have been there for another 5 years, making nasty stacks of cash, and being unhappy. By the way, because the other catalyst that this put in to motion was me learning to love myself, not the persona that I put onto the world. There's a good one for you, right?
What the hell does that dude mean by that fucking shit, man? Who's this fucking persona?
So, in the simplest of terms, I did not love myself. I was not happy with myself, but I sure as hell loved the guy that I displayed to the world, the persona that I gave to the world, the person beyond the wall. I thought was a pretty cool fucking dude, and he was an asshole too, but I still liked him for it. You know, it's kind of funny. The reason I liked him for it is because he stood up when I didn't used to, right? That was that persona. He was a dick. So, you know, it is what it is. Yes, it was nice. Thank you. And I know we're talking about the name. I had not lost track, Princess Buttercup. So, back to what I was saying. Me going through that also was the catalyst in the beginning of letting go of that. I shortly thereafter stopped going by the nickname that I had during that time, and started going back by my actual birth name, which I had not gone by since I was like a kid. I'd always gone by a nickname of some kind. It was just the way I was. And yeah, it was the beginning. I mean, part of that, I'll say this, I would have, not only did it put me in the physical place geographically to meet what would be the mother of my twins, but it also put me in the mental place to be able to actually love that person. So there, poo-poo, stick your head and fucking doo-doo. It was a dual-edged one. You know, one of them was immediate. And that's why I say the bad things are always a catalyst. You just have to look at it. And sometimes it takes a while. But those bad things are always a catalyst. You can believe it. I have tried now to look at some of the bad situations in my life and not see them lead to something great. And I can't. They always lead to something great. If it matters, most of the time, sooner than later. Just, you know, to throw that out there. So. All right. Nice. Thank you. I end up doing a lot of voices, Wilson. One day I'm going to probably have to do a whole shtick of all these different voices that I've got trapped inside of me. Just like one video, you know, just all of them. One right after the other. Just let them go to town. One accent right after the other. And then just go into different ones. It's just, you know, I was a kid, man. And by the time I was just on this note about voices, shit, I think, pretty sure before my parents even split up, I would run around doing Daffy Duck, which just got all these stoners. They would fucking laugh their ass off. When I was a kid, I had to put my head like this in order to get the sound. And then you can imagine this kid just running around acting like a fucking duck. Stoners, they love the shit. They would fucking laugh their ass off, you know, sitting there listening to Dark Side of the Moon and watching some 4-year-old make a fool of himself who was most definitely high by contact, right? That's why I mean, I've said this before, but when I finally did start getting high, I didn't actually get high for 2 years because this had to catch up with how much smoke I'd already taken in over the first 14 years of life. So, you know, needless to say, I caught up and then surpassed it, which is where we are now. Another one of my favorite bowls. Little Dick. You got big balls over there. This is Little Blue, or Blue Dick, Little Blue, whatever the hell his name is. I call him Little Dick. Baby Blue, I think is technically his name, but who gives a shit? So on to, since I kind of already touched on Everything Happens for a Reason, which is the EHRAP, or happens for a reason, for EHFAR. Sorry, there we go. I already EHFAR'd it out, so time to move on to the story that I mentioned earlier, and that was the night that I met my wife. So if I've told this one before, what is this? Is there a theme there, my dear? Well, I don't know. Probably so. I do have a thing for penis. But I have a thing for vagina too, so it is what it is. Funny, they go together, right? So why wouldn't I like both? Back to the story. So to set the mood, this is 2007. It is March. And funny enough, the day in question, I actually have tickets to go see Public Enemy, because this is St. Petersburg, Florida. And I have tickets to go see Public Enemy at Janus Landing. Woo! Wow, I got that one. I pulled it right out of my fucking ass. Janus Landing, which is still there. It's a very famous place to see a show. And Janus Landing is a shit. Let me just say this. It's not the kind of place that I would want to go, although I do highly enjoy it. It's a double-edged sword because it's on fucking concrete, man. Like Janus Landing is essentially the alleyway in the back of this group of buildings on a block, downtown block of St. Petersburg, and they just created a venue out of it where they put a stage on, you know, out there, and they go to town. And I mean, I've seen a few shows there. It's quite a good time, but again, you know, it's not forgiving like even a hardwood floor or that of, say, an amphitheater, right? It's just hard concrete, man. So just know that that's out there, right? So I have tickets to go see that, and that starts at probably, I think that was like a 9 o'clock show, and it's Public Enemy, so you know they're going to play. If you guys know Public Enemy and you know Flavor Flav, those guys don't ever perform for less than like 2.5 hours at a time. I mean, they're just, when they were around, they were incredible, right? So I had met my wife, technically speaking. This is really, I miss, what is it? Represented, because this is really we're talking about the first date, right? And that's why I think I got confused, because I think I've mentioned the fact that the way I met my wife, and I'll just give you that real quick in case any of you don't remember. Go Colorado. We worked across the street from each other downtown St. Petersburg on 2nd Avenue. I worked in the atrium. She worked in the Bell South building. And one day when I came down for a smoke break, I saw her across the street. Now, that was the first time I saw her, and I didn't actually meet her, but I saw her across the street. And I had on, used to wear all these Tommy Bahamas, and I had on sorry. I had on a Tommy Bahama that was bright orange, very, very loud shirt, right? You could not notice me. And I saw her, and we kind of gave a little head nod to one another, but nothing, nothing spectacular. But then, funny enough, by no sheer coincidence, when I left work that day, she was out there again, and she was, funny enough, as I was coming out, she was walking towards the little, what do you call it, like a little sitting area where there were some benches. People will sit there and smoke, right? Talk, whatever, have their coffee. And that's where she was heading. And so I went ahead and walked across the street. I jaywalked. Fuck it. I didn't give a shit, man. But I shot across the street. I walked over to her. And I was like, hey, you got a lighter. Now, I will, and she knows it now, but I had a lighter. I never don't have a lighter, right? I haven't not had a lighter in my pocket since I don't know when, man. So obviously she doesn't know me, and I didn't give a shit. So I was like, hey, you got a lighter? And she did, and I got us to talking. And that was my opener. The classic, I'm not coming on to you. I just want to have what you have in your hand in my hand so I can smoke tobacco approach. I will say this, it worked. I immediately started chatting with her, and I believe it was that very same conversation, or was it the next day? I think it was that same conversation. I asked her out, but I told her no, it was that same conversation. I was like, hey, would you like to go out? But I immediately explained and followed up with, this would be purely sexual. I was not looking for a relationship. I was looking simply for a fuck buddy, a friends with benefits, no strings attached, whatever you want to call it. That's what I was looking for. Pretty transparent, upfront kind of guy, and have been for a long time. So that really started, I can't remember. I think that started back in the days of AA, right? And I've kind of alluded to that, but once you do steps, the 12 steps, part of that is that you tell every dirty, dark secret that you can possibly have to someone else. And I did the steps a few times. By the time I became a drug lord, I'd already done the steps at least twice, but I believe 3 times. Because part of doing the steps is that you just keep doing them over and over, because once you're done, you still fuck up. You're not perfect. So there's always amends to make. And there's always this. So the way it's done in the simplest of terms is you go through the 12 steps and then you essentially practice them on a continuum basis. But there are certain steps that you consider having done more than once, or, like you kind of count them. And each time all those steps are done, you've gone through all 12 again. If that makes any sense to any of you non-steppers. Anywho, I let her know who I was, let her know what I wanted. And she essentially agreed to go out with me, although it took us a week. It was a week later. So I'm pretty sure that was like a Friday or maybe a Thursday, but it was the following Friday that we were going out. Or the following Friday is when I secured the date, I should say. Secured it and some of these things might be fuzzy. My wife will be sure to let me have it if I got any of this wrong. But what I do know is that we planned the date that Friday, the same Friday that I was going to Janice Landing. And the funny thing is, I didn't plan on Janice Landing and Flava Flav and those guys until after I secured the date. And then someone was like, hey, man, guess who's playing Janice Landing? And I was like, fuck it, let's go. And I was in a good mood, right? And funny enough, I had a great time. I stayed up quite late, was there till about, was at Janice Landing till just about 1 o'clock. Jump. I mean, I was literally doing it, and I was also in sandals. So, let's just say it wasn't probably the best thing for my back even 15 years ago. And this has now been over 15 years. So to make a short story quite long, I proceeded after the show. I still proceeded to go out for the night and actually went over to, I told her that, I told what would become my wife in the very beginning that I had no there was no attachments. Obviously, no strings attached means no strings attached. So that night, in lieu of knowing I was going to go out with her, I went over to another chick's house and was over there till about, I don't know, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, somewhere in there. It might have actually, I think it was later because I had to drop my buddy off, who went with me, and there was a couple girls there. So regardless, I think I got home around 3:34, somewhere in that neighborhood, which was not that surprising for me on a Friday night, right? And I'm in my mid-30s. So I went to bed, passed out, I should say. Got high and was quite happy. Woke up in the morning and did my normal thing that I would do in 2007, and that was I woke up with the clear intention of doing one thing, and that was playing the shit out of Tiger Woods golf on Xbox, right? So I literally got out of the bed, and when I say got out of the bed and got into my chair, to understand, I had an L-shaped, I should say it like this. So I had L-shaped, you do it like that, L-shaped desk here, right? And my bed was here, and the only thing that separated the desk was literally a what do you call it, a file cabinet table, side table. So I got out of the bed and literally didn't have to really move or do anything. Sat my ass. I was heavier at this time. Sat my ass in my office chair and turned it around. And all I did was lean forward. Just lean forward, man. That's it. Just let me push that on button for the Xbox, and my back went out. When I say my back went out, anybody who knows me or anybody who understands what a back going out means, I mean, I literally could not. I was then at this. That was as much, and I'm trying to give it very realistic. So body being straight, I could get about that much angle. Like, oh, fuck. So, and the date is that night. So I was not in good shape to go out on a first date, as you could well imagine. And I was the one that was supposed to pick her up too. Or I think meet her or something. I know that we ended up, we rode together. I still met her. I was like, you just got to know my back is That's how you really impress a chick who's 25 years younger than you when you're 35. Now, when you're 35, you think you're old as shit, by the way. Like you're starting to feel old, and you feel old as shit, especially if the girl you're going out on a date with is 25 and you're like, oh, I'm going to impress the fuck out of this young little, but you try to impress her and you can't even stand fucking straight up. So literally, we go to Outback, which was still a pretty decent restaurant 15 years ago. And I mean, I'm literally walking in, bent the fuck over, almost at a 90-degree angle. That's the way I went around the car and opened her door. That still cracks me up, man. Who the fuck does that, right? Oh, here, let me get that door for you. Fucking can't even lift your fucking self. And then we get in there, and they were like, do you want to wait? I was like, no, can we just get a bar seat? And then I proceed to walk in front of this entire fucking restaurant and bar scene at the Outback in Clearwater, Florida. Yeah. Oh, man. What a fucking night. And we sat there and had a nice dinner. I mean, I will say this, once I sat down, and that was kind of the savings grace that I knew I didn't have to do a whole lot of standing or walking. But once we sat down, it was fine. I could sit straight up, once, like, I couldn't just do it quickly. I had to slowly maneuver my back into position in order to get there. But regardless, I could do it, I'll say that. So, anyway, I was still trying to make a night of it, and I still planned on fucking this chick. That was my plan. I'm like, I'm gonna fucking get laid. I mean, you have to understand that a man doesn't go through that without the clear thought that the payoff will be some new strange that night, right? That's the payoff. So I was like, hey, you want to go, go buy a Blu-ray or a DVD or something like that. I think it was DVDs back then. That's right, DVDs. It's like, you want to go buy a DVD? And go back to my place for a little while? And she said yes. I was like, okay. So I haven't totally turned her away. The option is still open. She's coming back to my place. It's 2007. Everybody knows what that means, right? None of us are fucking stupid or naive. Again, I already told her where and what I wanted from her, right? So we went and picked out a movie, went back to my place. And literally the moment we put it in, she got a phone call from her ex. Now, parentheses, this whole part right here is in parentheses, okay? The person that she was no longer seeing, she was still living with for financial reasons, and he was twisting every screw he could to fuck with her and still manipulate her as much as he possibly could, right? And he knew for a fact that she was out on a date with me. I don't know for a fact that he knew it was friends with benefits kind of situation, but whatever. He knew. And whatever he said, I can't remember what it was now, but he said some shit to her that made her feel like she just had to get the fuck out of there, right? And she did. So then I had blue balls. And that's the story. That's the end of it. Blue balls in a bad back. Bad blue back balls. There you go. Baby got blue balls back. And a bad back. Baby got bad back. And blue balls. I'll say it again. It doesn't matter. But that is the first date. On a side note, we went out again a week later and commit. That was the story that I told. I was trying to figure out. I was telling the story of the first night we slept together. That's what I told. That was the night, and that was a cop night. That was why that I couldn't remember. So anyway, that was just me remembering there. Sorry, everybody. Well, I'm not. Sorry, not sorry. Fuck it. Next on the agenda, what did I have planned? Because my mind is a mushball factory. Yeah, what does that even mean? Oh, so I said I would tell a drug lord story tonight. So let's go back to drug lord time, which means this is the 90s, right? And I will tell a good one because I don't think I've told this one yet. Not to y'all anyway. I've told this to somebody else. And this one's kind of a serious story, but hey, everything happens for a reason. It all leads us to where we are right now. If some of you right now are masturbating, that's where life led you. Okay. Don't ask me where that came from. That's what she said. It's also what he said. Actually, it's what they said as well. It's also what the team said. It really could go on and on. So this is a story of the one and only time that I held a gun to someone's head. Excuse me. So I was a proud little drug dealer, right? And I don't think technically this was before I'd really hit Lord status because I was probably moving in the neighborhood of around 25 a week, somewhere in that neighborhood. I hadn't even moved out of the first house, and I didn't become a drug lord until the second house. So I can tell you I was not technically a drug lord, but it is a drug lord story because it's part of the stories that got us where we are today and led me to become one. It actually lended itself well in lieu of reputation and that kind of thing too when you talk about standing your ground. But to make a truly a long story short this time, and I mean that, I had gotten pretty big. I'd gotten to the point where I was consolidating. I was already in that process. I was already in a partnership. I was already moving things to a different direction and knew that I was going to try to essentially get my name out of the public eye, if you will. But I already had a bunch of connections. And funny enough, one of the, if anybody's ever been paying attention to the stories, I got to the point where I had 3 guys that I dealt with, 2 5s, 2 guys that were 5 pounds, and 1 guy that was 10, and that was daily. But before we got there, one of these 3 guys was a guy that I was doing about 10 pounds a week to at this time. And he ended up becoming one of the 5-pound daily guys. Well, and these are like, there's 15 other stories here that I could tell, but I'm just going to whip through it. Okay. Because I don't want to fucking do this much longer. No offense. I have a lot of things to do. And what I mean by I don't want to do this, I don't want to go, I don't even want to come close to going to an hour, and I'm already at 40 minutes. Yep, I'm already at 40 minutes. So, long story short, this guy had a sister. This sister I was sleeping with behind my current girlfriend's back, and she was like fucking, her pussy was like feathers on earth. It was one of the most incredible things ever. And literally there's 5 other stories with her. But on a situation where I went over there to dump off some weed, and I was in there at the same time, I would leave my girlfriend in the car because she was normal to that as far as it was dealings, right? Which all lend itself perfectly. I would go in and fuck her for like 10 minutes out of the 20 minutes that I was in there. Well, while I was fucking her, and the only reason I even bring all that up is because it was kind of strange that he decided to do this, but apparently that was the moment that he remembered. Like, while I'm fucking this dude's sister, he busts in, he's like, dude, forgot to tell you, this guy is threatening to kill you. He's threatening to kill you and your girlfriend, right? So everything kind of stopped. He and I immediately came up with a scheme to get this guy over to his house the next day. And we proceeded to do as such. And the moment that the guy got over with, the whole time I dumped my car off and I was there, but I was there with my gun, which was a USP 40 cal Smith & Wesson. Basically it's like a Glock, but USP version, or USP is the maker. Right. Anyway, it really doesn't matter. It was a 40 cal Glock style weapon. I'm pretty sure the reason it was called Smith & Wesson is that was the style of ammunition, and it was made by USP, which was a big contender back in that day for Glock. I think they still might be. Either way, I was waiting in the back, of the moment the guy got there, I came out and with my gun in my hand and cocked and loaded and the safety off, I came in and put that gun right to that guy's head and asked him if he wanted to kill me. And I tell that story because I've told it many times, but I tell it for the one big reason. And it's funny because I think I've heard similar lines in film, but until you live that moment, you don't really understand it. And I'm sure that dude was scared, but I don't know that I wasn't more scared. And I mean that, like, inside, earlier I alluded to the fact that there was always 2 people at that time, right? Inside, the other me was cowering. Like, I mean, I couldn't believe what the persona me was doing. And I was scared shitless that he was going to do something that was going to make that moment. And that's where the fear was for me, is that regardless of what people say, time kind of does stand still in moments that are defining to your life. They go by at an eerie, slow pace, right? And I remember in that moment that was all of maybe 5 seconds, running through what seems like now 25, 27 different scenarios of what could happen if I pulled this trigger. And I mean, it's really weird because I was no higher than a kite. Well, what I mean by that is I was always high, but I mean, I wasn't on any other spectacular drugs. In fact, to me, being only high was that I had stayed sober for this very important moment. And I was even shaking a little bit. I mean, physically, it was just a little bit of, it wasn't like, like some kind of fuck, but it was like, if you kind of have like a little tremor, if you will. And the last thought I had before he opened his mouth and started apologizing and on and on. And he didn't piss himself, and he wasn't a coward. I will say that he stood his ground. He didn't stand his ground in the sense of like trying to what do we used to call it, getting red or buffing up, whatever you want to call it. Like he just stood his ground, like, you know, hey, I apologize, I said it, obviously, you know, blah blah blah. None of that really matters. The point is, the last thought that I remember having before he started talking was, I literally, you know, call it what you want, but it was more or less a prayer. You know, please God, have this dude, make this dude do the right thing, because I was already in the moment, you know, and you get to the moment sometimes without thinking, and then that's when you decide to think. You know, and I posted something about that the other day, and it was supposed to say, I must think before I react. And the funny thing is, the tweet says, I just think before, which in a fucked up way makes sense, but it was not the meaning that I was trying to get across, and I didn't want to delete it and redo it, so it doesn't really matter. You know, the major point of it still came across. But back to that situation, you know, you really do need to think before you react, and I didn't. You know, I didn't think before I reacted until I was in the middle of the moment, and then I was praying to God that this guy wouldn't do something stupid that caused us both to be, you know, him dead and my life changed forever, for more than one reason. That's what I'm saying. Like I was just going through all, oh, you're a murderer, you're going to jail, you're going to be on the run. Like it was all happening at lightning speed inside my head. Funny enough, I remember this stupid movie written and directed by Emilio Estevez. Since we mentioned Charlie Sheen, to bring it back full circle, there was a movie that Emilio did that he wrote and directed when he was younger called Wisdom. I thought of that fucking movie in those seconds as well. That literally is the kind of, and I'll just give you a real quick synopsis because that's a good one to go back and watch. It's actually underrated, and there's some bad acting because it was early, but it's Emilio and Demi Moore, and essentially he goes on the run. Something about his he had gone to jail for some reason and made a mistake, but he was now a felon and couldn't get a job, so he decided to, in the shortest of terms, he wasn't robbing banks, but he was going in and like burning the debts and taking just enough money for him to survive. So he was kind of like a Robin Hood in the sense that, you know, what he was doing was destroying debt that people then would no longer owe money. I'm pretty sure that was what it was. And if I'm wrong, who gives a shit? The whole fucking point is, and here you'll know why I thought about that, or why that movie came into my mind even at that time. But the entire movie ends up being a daydream that he has while he's sitting in the tub. And you don't know it until the end, where there's a scene in the beginning where he's in the tub, and then all of a sudden, yeah, I gave it away. Who gives a fuck? What are you going to sue me? Spoiler alert. There he goes. I'll put that back. No, I won't do it. I say that, but I'm not going to do it. But that's the whole thing. Like, you can have so much thought. You don't realize it until you're in these moments, right? And not that that was that kind of moment for him, but it was that kind where he was testing the bounds of his, you know, decision making, right? Regardless to say, I'm not a murderer. I didn't kill that guy. And I was lucky enough to never have to pull my gun again, and very happy about it because I didn't enjoy it. So something strange about me. I'm looking around desperately to find something, and you know, I just I don't think this is strange so much as I will say this, and for some people, I'm superstitious to the degree of ridiculousness. How about that? And you'll see what I mean. I have to find a way. If I say something that I think is going to be a jinx, I have got to find a way to knock on some real wood. I don't, and to me, that I rationalize it like if I'm in the car, then I can take a piece of paper and put it on a hard surface, and that's knocking on real wood. That paper is real wood. It's just in a different form now, right? So I have been known to pull off the side of the road at 45 miles an hour and knock on a telephone pole when I couldn't get any wood. I've done all kinds of crazy shit in order to knock on wood. And that's the big one, is knocking on wood. Like that, I feel like I'm playing video games. If I think something, I'll knock on wood and pray to the video game gods. That's fucking strange, right? There you go. All right. So, what are you gonna do? Most people don't realize just how normal strange is. I think I'm a prime example of that. And in fact, you know, everybody has opinions, and people say opinions are like assholes. They stink. All right. Everybody stinks, and everybody thinks everybody else's stinks. I should say everybody likes their own, though, right? We all just can't get enough of our own. You ever notice that? Like, sit in the bathroom. Oh, God. I wish somebody was here to share this with me so they could know how much it stinks for them and how much I enjoy it. It's like a lovely little, you know, dual battle going on with yourself. Now, funny enough, and I've said this to my wife and made her laugh, that that's when you know you've really fucking set a bomb in the bathroom. When you set the bomb and you're like, fuck, this stinks. When you actually don't enjoy it. When you've stunk yourself out of your own bathroom, where you're like, dude, fuck that. I don't know what I did, but that doesn't deserve to be. That's not allowed to get out of the bathroom, you know. And you got to get out of there quick. That's when you really know. I've only done that probably like 7 times in my life, and I'm 50 years old. So 7 times I have fucking blown the bathroom up so much that I had to get out of there. And that's how much opinions stink. And mine. Mine, they stink like fresh brewed coffee, which I have just enough of. And medical grade dank ass fucking weed. Unless anybody has something to say, I'm going to check out. Oh, that was it. You don't have the time because, see, I'll hit the button before you can. So, with that, I bid you adieu. If you didn't get to see the whole show, I'll say this. Go back and watch the beginning, because I did show a new little video that we'll be posting up on dank.tube here, probably later tonight or tomorrow, one or the other. And it's just us being funny. We did it for the extreme strain. Extreme strain is obviously for extreme sports, that kind of thing. So any kind of skateboarding, rollerboarding, anything in the air, anything on the snow, snowboarding, ski, all those extreme things, put them there. Other than that, have a wonderful night. You are all incredible people. You're all worth something. Everything happens for a reason. It's all very important. Even the small details matter. So remember that when you think it doesn't matter, just know that it does. If you don't believe me, reach out to me in a direct way and ask me for a story to prove it, because I've got 75 stories right here off the top of my head that'll prove it. With that, again, you are all very, very awesome, very incredible people. I love all of you. I'll see you on the next episode. As always, that will be Saturday, by the way. But I will see you on the next episode and have something hopefully fresh and new to deliver you on that one. Till then, later.